My parents really wanted to move, so I bought it for them.
Huh? What do you mean? My husband used our savings to buy an apartment for his parents without discussing it with me.
We just have to save up again. Anyway, I don't need you telling me what to do with my own money.
Ah, he is totally gone. I felt nothing, not even sadness or anger, like I was suddenly pulled down into a purgatory of nothingness. And then I slowly grabbed his hands. I met my husband Eric at my college party. He was sitting across from me on the sofa, and I noticed him glancing at me. As the hour passed by and the party was at its peak, he and I went out on the quiet corner of the lawn hitting up a conversation. We had the same hobbies and interests, and it was exciting to chat with him. We exchanged our numbers and started dating. He proposed to me after 2 years when I was 25. It was my dream to marry young and start a family, so I said yes to him. We got a one-bedroom apartment close to his parents, and I quit my job and became a housewife as he requested. Soon after that, I got pregnant and had a son, Mark. Around this time, my in-laws started inviting us to their house often. They never contacted me directly, but asked me through Eric. I understood that they really wanted to see their grandson. They actually adored Mark and bought a lot of toys for him. Mark, who was very attached to me, was quickly used to them. However, every time I was at their house, I got an awkward feeling. "Stacy, if you're too busy with housework, you don't have to come over. We are happy just the Eric and Mark."
It feels claustrophobic here.
They seemed like they wanted to get rid of me. Mark was still little and cried when I wasn't around. I wasn't comfortable leaving him alone with elderly in-laws, so I stayed put no matter how they tried to throw me out. I guess they weren't pleased with my aloofness, that their attitude toward me became nastier. One day, when I was cleaning the house, I received a call from Eric. He was panicking over the phone because his mom called an ambulance for hitting her pinky against the table. He gave me the name of the hospital and told me to go ASAP. She just banged her pinky. Why was I sent to check on her just for that? I just did the same a few minutes ago. I was about to protest, but he hung up on me. Reluctantly, I went out to the hospital. When I was walking toward the reception counter, I saw my mother-in-law sitting in the waiting room. She was chatting with other elderlies, but when I called out to her, "Aha, I bumped it a little. Eric is overreacting. Don't slack on chores and go home." Who exaggerated it by calling an ambulance? I stopped doing my chores to come here just for you. I don't deserve to be told slacking. As I started walking away, I heard her telling the others about me. "My daughter-in-law is really bad at taking care of housework and so lazy. I don't know what to do with her. On top of it, she's mean." I couldn't hear after that and just kept walking. I complained to Eric when he got home that night, but he only said,
"Whatever, it's all good,"
and kept drinking beer. I got upset with his indifference. How the hell is it all good?
"God, you're annoying. Stop complaining. I'm exhausted from work."
He got mad at me, and we started the Cold War. We didn't speak to each other for about a week. I became uneasy that Eric might not give me the living expense for the next month. He was in charge of handling the family finance, and I usually got a monthly allowance to make ends meet. If he didn't, I wouldn't have been able to do so. Too worried that I apologized to him, who willing to accept it, and we went back to our normal life like nothing ever happened. Who knew something bigger was to come? Eric dropped the bomb just 3 days after we made it up. His mom had trouble walking, so we were to move in with them. I, of course, refused. I plan to go back to work after Mark starts middle school. I can't continue looking after her.
Well then, we are getting a divorce. You are a housewife, so you won't be able to support Mark. I will take custody.
I couldn't retort to his comment. In fact, I was unemployed and didn't have the means to raise him. Even if I found a job now, where was I going to leave him? My parents lived with my brother, his wife, and their 5 kids. I couldn't put more weight on their shoulders. I had no choice but to accept his demand again. We were to break the contract of our apartment and move in with his parents at the end of the month. On the day of our move, his parents cheerfully welcomed Eric and Mark, but to me, they commanded the detailed rules of the house and instructed me to ask for their permission before I went out. There was nothing welcoming about it. Since then, their discrimination against me escalated. One day, I came back from grocery shopping a little before noon. I saw empty boxes of pizza on the kitchen counter, and it seemed like the family had just finished eating lunch. I clearly told them when I left, "I will make lunch, so please wait for me." "Oh, Stacy, we're craving pizza, so we ordered in. We left some for you on the dining table." "Thank you." I went to the dining room and opened the box. There was one piece of pizza inside. I felt frustrated to be left out again. The piece wasn't even whole, with a chunk missing on the side. Probably Mark had a bite. I didn't even get a complete piece of pizza. I felt like Mark was even mocking me, and my eyes became watery. Another time, the rain suddenly started while I was out. I had left our sneakers under the sun, so I rushed back home. When I got back, I found that my mother-in-law had already taken Eric and Mark's sneakers, but left mine out soaked in the rain. Eric and my father-in-law pretend to be oblivious. At lunch and dinner, if I served with a big sharing plate, they immediately took all without leaving any of me. So I served them separately with a single serving next time. They complained it was too small. Such was my life. In the end, I kept my own portion on the side before serving them and ate it secretly after they finished. I had been trying my best to not explode with anger, but I finally had enough and was about to plead with Eric for moving out, but...
"Hey, I bought a new apartment. I will take you to see it. You'd like it for sure."
I was flabbergasted. We never discussed such a matter, and where did the money come from? I was rushed to go and see it with him. It was a brand new apartment building in the center of the town. There was a mall, school, government office, and post office nearby. It was in a very convenient location. The apartment was just finished built a couple weeks ago. We entered the room at the corner of 8th floor. It was unbelievably bright, big, and had a great view. It was almost perfect. The moment I was about to ask him about the most important matter,
"My parents say they really want to live here. I bought it with the sale of their house and all the savings. Isn't it amazing?"
What? What the hell did he say? It was his parents' wish? Spend all the saving that was supposed to be for our son's education and our retirement. What in the world was so amazing about it? How could you do such a selfish thing? Please cancel the contract. I was in total panic and begged him to cancel.
"Huh? We just start saving again. Anyway, I don't need you to telling me what to do with my own money. A housewife has no say in this."
He snapped back at me. "You told me to quit my job and stay at home." The word divorce popped into my head, and I ran out of the apartment. When I got home, my father-in-law was watching TV, and my mother-in-law was busy on the phone. I hurried to collect the necessary things and pack them in the bag. Then I scrolled down "Let's Divorce" on a piece of paper and left it with my wedding ring on the desk. I rushed out of the house carrying Mark, who was half asleep. "Let's get a room in a motel for now." We were wandering the street on foot without knowing what to do next. Then I heard a woman's voice calling me. "Stacy, isn't that you? Oh my God, is it?" I turned around and knew immediately who she was. "It's me, Amy. Remember me? Such a long time." She was my high school friend. We kept in touch after graduation, but we eventually became estranged. She got divorced from her husband who cheated on her and came back to her hometown last year. I told her about what had been going on in my life and mentioned divorce as well. She smirked and said, "I know the best divorce lawyer. I will pass you his contact." The lawyer happened to be the same guy with whom I had a crush in high school. I remembered him clearly. I wanted to give him a birthday present, but there were already many decorations and gifts around his locker. I went to another locker he used for the tennis club, but it was also the same. So I took a bus to his home, but this time his mailbox was too small, and there was a barking dog in front of yard that I couldn't get to the porch. I didn't have the courage to directly give it to him, so I gave up and went home. A bittersweet memory of my youth. I got the location and phone number of his office and thanked Amy over and over when we parted. I couldn't waste a second, so I went directly to see him after that. I didn't book an appointment ahead of time, but I just needed to do something. A friendly middle-aged woman in the front assisted me and said I was in luck, that there was a cancellation. She even offered to babysit Mark and took me to the office. I waited for a little while, then Mr. Jackson showed up. He was handsome back then, but his good look was polished by age and he was gorgeous. Not only his face, but his body looked toned, and the way he carried himself in the suit was to die for. Compared to him, Eric was like Gollum.
Thanks for waiting. I'm Adam Jackson. Nice meeting you.
He introduced himself as he pulled out his business card. I did likewise, but I noticed my voice was shaking. I apologized for showing up without an appointment, and then briefed him on the reason for my visit. He started asking me questions, but I had a hard time focusing. On top of his good appearance, his voice was a beautiful tenor. As I was listening to him, I couldn't stop imagining him getting better with age like George Clooney. We were in the office for about an hour and a half. It was the happiest time of my life in a long while. I thanked Adam and the woman vigorously before I left. Mark had been a good boy all this time, and I swore to myself to be strong for him. While I got temporary custody, Adam continued negotiation with Eric attorney. Of course, he wasn't willing to settle easily, and was too carried away by his race that he couldn't even think straight. Hence, we went to a trial.
Don't worry, it happens often. I got this.
Adam tried to soothe my anxiety. I got a ride from him to the court on the day of our trial. As soon as I got there, I felt a knot in my stomach. I was going to see Eric for the first time since I left. When he saw me enter the room, he immediately grimaced at me.
You bitch! What the hell do you think you're doing? Who took care of you all this time? You owe me!
He looked like he was about to jump on me, so the security and his lawyer restrained him and dragged him out of the hallway. I was horrified. Even if we divorced, he might take revenge. I could hear him screaming, and his lawyer said,
"It's gonna have a negative effect. And the worst case, the police."
Then it became quiet. We went through the hearing without an incident after that. Mark and I were offered to stay with Amy's parents for the time being. They ran a local diner and hired me as a waitress out of their kindness. In addition to that, they had an unused trailer in their backyard, which they offered us to stay in. One night, I don't know how they found out, but Eric's parents showed up at the house. They tried to cross the yard toward my trailer, and Amy's parents stopped them. "Hey, come out, you coward! Give us Mark!" I heard them shouting. Amy signed me to hide and went out to deal with them. "If you don't leave now, we'll call the police." As she said this, she was already calling. They realized the seriousness and tried to run away, but Amy's parents held them in place. The policeman arrived within a minute. After hearing both sides, they escorted in-laws back to the car and made sure they drove away. I frantically apologized to Amy and her parents and started packing my things, but they stopped me and told me it was safer to stay with them. "Your divorce drama is quite entertaining. I'm so geared up to fight with you." Wait. I felt threatened for my life here. Came to think of it, she was into Spanish soap operas. 2 months later, thanks to Adam, I was able to get good alimony, custody, and child support. I could finally cut all ties and move on with my life. I can live freely doing whatever I chose to do. I held Mark tightly in my arms. He needs to be reassured that I would always be by his side. Before I parted with Adam, I not only thanked him for the job he had done, but finally told him that I actually knew him from high school. He didn't remember me, but he was kind to tell me that I could count on him if there was anything. Later on, the rumor of my in-laws' incident spread in their neighborhood, and Eric too was seen by the neighbors as an abusive husband. They were too embarrassed that they moved to another town. Eric had sold a new apartment and paid me half of the profit. He was in debt from the trial and still had to pay me alimony and child support, so he lived in a trailer park. I had been afraid of his retaliation against me, but he wasn't as stupid as I thought. He never tried to get in touch with me. As for the in-laws, even after the first incident, they had been warned by the police. They kept coming to see me, so they eventually got arrested. After spending some time in the pen, they both got ill and were sent to a facility by Eric. As for me, I still work at the diner. "Hey Stacy, have a break. Let's get something to eat." "Thanks, yeah, let's eat." I take off my name tag and sit down in a booth. Amy joined with a cheeky smile on her face. "So, how's it going with Adam?" "Direct to the point, huh?" "Of course, I want to know everything." Adam had asked me out a little after our last meeting, and we started seeing each other. He is supposed to meet Mark officially this weekend. I tell Amy about it. "Wow, Mark's finally meeting him. Where are you guys going? Who suggested bringing Mark?" She's so excited with many questions. Good food, good friends, and a re-encounter with my old crush. I've had terrible experiences, but I'm glad that I had the courage to get out of my old life, because now I'm standing at the end of the tunnel. I feel grateful and blessed to be able to stay with Mark more than anything. I will live my own life surrounded by good people supporting each other from now on. Thank you so much for your invitation. To my acknowledgement, my mother-in-law gave me an unexpected reply. "You're not coming with us. You annoy me. Got it?" I wondered what made her treat me in this way. She didn't see me as a part of her family. Was it the job I had that bothered her so much? I felt like her words punched me in the face, and was too shocked to say anything back. I had managed to endure her abuses so far, but I wasn't gonna let her get away with this one. "My name is Tracy. I've been working at quite a big company. The job itself is nothing fancy. But I'm surrounded by many good colleagues, including my boss. It's a nice environment that keeps me working here. My job gets quite hectic during peak season, but I never felt stressed because my colleagues and I have a good support system, and we work hard as a team. I guess not having a work relationship issue helps me a lot too. My parents have always worried about me working too much. The typical nagging of, when do you plan to get married? I always give them the same nonchalant answer. I still don't feel like it, and it's better not to rush into it. They normally just sigh and shake their heads at me. My life changed when my company threw a big party. I had never felt comfortable in a social setting, but I forced myself to join as it was a part of my job. The dinner was amazing, but I felt dizzy in the crowded hall, so I went out to a balcony to catch a fresh air. I was enjoying the night breeze when I heard a man's voice. It took me a while to realize that someone was speaking to me. "Oh, I'm sorry, I was in my own world." The guy standing across from me looked plain but friendly.
Are you antisocial?
His blunt question made it easier for me to be honest. "Yeah, I prefer working," I replied with a wry smile, to which he answered shyly,
Me too. I thought I was gonna be the only unsocial one here.
He seemed to relax a bit and started asking me questions. His name was John, and we spoke about our work and our interest in traveling and movies. He was really into films and even knew a lot about old Hollywood. I prefer watching a movie at home than going out with a bunch of people.
Me too.
He sounded a bit enthusiastic about my comment, and he immediately said,
Whoops. I haven't met anyone I can really talk to about all this, so I got a bit too excited.
He seemed embarrassed. I found him cute, and we continued our conversation alone on the balcony. We exchanged our numbers at the end of the night. I normally didn't give my number easily to guys except at work, but he was different, in the sense that he made me feel relaxed while talking to him. "Are you dating someone now?" I froze to the out-of-the-blue question of Anne one day at work. She continued without care. "Because you start wearing cute outfits to the office, I assume you are meeting someone special after work." I wasn't certain what she meant by dating. Not sure if we are dating, but we have common interest, and we watch movies or have dinner together. That's all. She looked at me puzzled and then rolled her eyes. That is called dating. I guess she could read my mind going, "Wow, I've been dating." She slapped her forehead and chuckled. "I'm happy that you're happy." I had been focusing on my job so much for a long time that my dating monitor must have shut down. Also, it just felt so natural to be with him, so I didn't even think about our status. John and I had smooth sailing. It wasn't a passionate romance like in Hollywood movies, but more laid back, and we had a peaceful time together. Eventually, we got engaged. Although my work required a lot of me at times, he never complained about it. My colleagues were happy for me and glad to hear that I would be working as usual after my marriage. We started planning our wedding and invited our friends as well as all of our colleagues. John's parents had a quiet manner just like him. His dad was courteous and a man of few words. His mom had a demeanor of dependability without being noisy. When we had dinner to introduce each other's family, it wasn't like our parents hit it up, but it was more like a friendly gathering. However, my mom had a look of worry later that night. When I asked her what was wrong, she said, "You might have a problem with John's mom later on. But John is a reliable guy, so I hope he can stand it between." John's mom was well-mannered, but didn't look bitchy. I shrugged off my mom's comment at that time. Later on, I came to realize how on point my mom was about her. Our wedding and honeymoon were both amazing. I always wanted to go to Rome ever since I watched Rome on Holiday. We weren't allowed to sit or eat anything at the Spanish Steps where Audrey Hepburn ate gelato, but I was ecstatic just climbing up the stairs. Even though we intentionally went there during off-season, There were still tons of tourists trying to take pictures. After we returned home, and just when we felt like we settled down, my work started becoming busier. I had already told John's parents that it normally got overloaded with work before and during long holidays, but it was particularly busy that Christmas season, and I didn't think I could take any days off. John and I went to visit his parents, and I informed them that I would miss the first Christmas with them. John's dad said,
"We don't really have a big celebration anyway, so don't worry about it. Just come and see us when things settle down."
John's mom too. I agree with him, but she looked like she had more to say. When I was helping her in the kitchen, my instinct came true. She still had a backward idea and thought women should stay at home and take care of the housework. When John came into the kitchen to help, "Cooking is a woman's work. Go relax in the living room." She shushed him away. Of course, I wasn't allowed to relax. I told myself it was still better than getting all the responsibility dumped on my shoulders. I never imagined a future where I got bullied by my mother-in-law. She sighed deliberately while cutting carrots. I was obliged to ask, "What's wrong?" She made a low voice, not to let John and his dad hear her. "You can't take Christmas off, can you?" "It's disappointing and quite rude. I'm sure my husband is actually upset," she mumbled. I was astounded seeing her like that for the first time. It was totally unexpected for me. As she kept chopping carrots, she continued with her lecture. "Why didn't you quit such a job when you got married? I hope you're not planning to work for long." I was fidgety and said, I haven't decided yet. John and I discussed and both of us planned to work for a while." I stumbled. She stared at me displeasingly. "You don't look like a successful career woman. Isn't it rather a good riddance for your company if you quit?" What did she know about me? When my anger started boiling, she was already setting up a table for dinner. Her behavior was back to normal in front of the others. I was remembering the comment by my mom when she first met John's mom.
"What's the matter, honey?"
I was brought back to myself and started taking food to the dining room. My mother-in-law pretended to know nothing and said, "Are you tired from unfamiliar cooking? I suppose you are too busy with work to cook at home."
"Mom, even though she is busy, she cares about the well-being and usually cooks balanced meal. Don't tell me you're bullying her."
"Of course not. I'm just concerned about her." I was amazed by her quick change of her behavior. My father-in-law prompted,
"Let's eat."
And we started dinner. John and I left the next morning. I probably had a gloomy face, so John asked me,
"Are you okay?"
I quickly thought it was better not to mention anything. That may cause an issue with their good relationship. "It's nothing. I guess I'm a bit tired from work." I covered it up.
Sorry. You didn't get to relax much with my parents around on your days off."
I felt even worse to say anything when I saw his concerned face. I didn't want to drag him, a kind-hearted husband, into this. My in-laws and I were never living together nor close to each other, so I only had to deal with her once in a while. It was my wishful thinking. After the last visit, she started calling me once a week. She asked me about John or checked to see if I was slacking on housework. I tried to put not much meaning into her calls, but they eventually started to stress me out. I still wasn't able to say anything to John either. One day, I got a call from her again. As soon as I picked up the phone, she said, "My birthday is coming up next month." I totally forgot about it and said, "Yes, right. What would you like to do? I don't need you to celebrate my birthday. She quickly shut me down and kept speaking fast not to let me interrupt. My husband suggested going for a short family trip. Since I love taking a trip, the second of the word made me excited regardless of what she had said just a minute ago. But my little excitement was short-lived and easily taken away by her. Thank you for the invitation.
Are you kidding me?
She separated each word to make her comment more sarcastic. I guess you will be invited as it's a family trip. She sounded irritated. But you're not coming with us. You annoy me. Got it? As I was looking for a word, she continued. I want to go only with my family. There's no place for a daughter-in-law. Make up an excuse, blame it on your work, and just don't join us. I will let you organize a trip though. I finally had enough and let my anger flow. I see. Whatever you say. Watch how you speak to me. It sounded like she was screaming, but I hung up on her. As instructed by her email, I booked flights and a nice hotel for their trip. Of course, excluding me. On the early morning of the trip, I told John that I had to take care of an important thing at work and cancel my flight. He was very disappointed, but, well, what can you do if it's work? I will miss you. Let me know if there's anything. He was still sweet. I felt a little bad about this trip, which was to be my retaliation against my mother-in-law. Of course, I felt bad only for John. I did go to work as I said. I thought about going somewhere alone, but I figured that I would start thinking negatively the moment I had free time. It was actually better to keep myself busy at work. I had no time to wonder what John was doing. Besides, my assistant made a huge mistake on this day. Everyone, including me, was running around to fix the problem, and I didn't even have time to send a text to John. When we finally finished working, it was dusk outside. Phew! Well done, Tracy. It's so late. Is your husband okay? Yeah, I already told him I might be quite busy today. I was so relieved to finish that I was smiling broadly. Then I remembered to check my phone to see if there was any messages from John. There were several missed calls and texts on my screen. They were supposed to come back the day after tomorrow. When I was reading my text, my phone suddenly vibrated. I ran out to the hallway and answered the phone. You need to explain this whole thing. What have you done? My mother-in-law screamed so loud that her voice must have been heard from inside the office. Calm down. Please lower your voice. I'm still at work. She didn't care and kept screaming hysterically. Anne poked her head out of the door, but as soon as she saw me, she sensed something and closed the door. How the hell do you know the GM of this hotel? My mother-in-law shouted. She explained frantically that when John told the front desk the number of guests was changed to 3 upon check-in, the staff told him it was originally booked for the 3. She was too late to interfere and was questioned by John and his dad. She eventually had to come clean about what she had done to me. You know, I told you I work in the travel industry. That hotel was going through a hard time at one point. I really liked the service and amazing scenery around it, so I helped with the marketing to attract young crowds. People started coming because it was great for social media photos and unique services. I know the GM since then. She was listening with heavy breathing. I could imagine her face looking like the possessed girl from The Exorcist. The GM asked us why we were having a family trip without you. You arranged all this, didn't you? I calmly answered the enraged mother-in-law. No way, it's peak season right now. I didn't think he had time for such a thing. I pretended to be innocent. The GM and I had a good relationship, so when I was at the hotel for work last time, I told him that I got married and my last name had changed. John's last name was unique, so the GM must have noticed. John must have heard his mom's yelling and came over. I heard his voice in the back, and then he took the phone from her.
I'm really sorry, honey. I had no idea what my mom was doing to you.
Don't worry, babe. I didn't tell you either.
I got scolded by the GM. He told me to take really good care of you and said it's rare to meet someone as compassionate as you. I felt like I was being scolded by your dad.
I laughed at his comment. The GM was about the same age as my dad. He also had a daughter who was married, so maybe he did take it personally.
I will see you tomorrow. We need to talk about this. Love you, Han.
We hung up the phone. After they came back, we had a family meeting at John's parents' house. My mother-in-law was really not interested in what I did for work, so she didn't even know that John's company was a subcontractor of mine. John was told by the GM that if he didn't take good care of me, the hotel was going to reevaluate the contract with his company.
It will affect your performance review.
When the GM mentioned it, my mother-in-law finally realized that she interfered with her own son's success and had greatly regretted her action. It probably didn't have that much of an impact on his career, but she had no work experience of her own and totally believed it. She looks remorseful and shrunk a half size during the meeting.
I will never take a trip with you. I will only go with Tracy from now on.
To John's comment, she scurried to defend herself. Please forgive me. I will tell the GM I will never bully Tracy, so you will have no problem at... Before she could finish her sentence, John grimaced and cut her off.
You are so wrong. This has nothing to do with my work. If you can treat Tracy nicer, I will never speak to you again.
She was sobbing at his words.
I'm really disappointed to know you are such a terrible person.
Her husband condemned her. Then she took my hands in hers. I'm very sorry. Please forgive me. I will never do such horrible things. Honestly, I wasn't convinced by her words.
We will see from your action from now on. I've been too oblivious. I will keep my eyes on you now.
John said in an authoritative tone, and then he turned to face me.
I'm sorry again. I'm not gonna let her do whatever she wants from now on.
He held me tight in his arms.
I apologize too. It's unbelievable what she has done.
My father-in-law too gave me a warm hug. I was overwhelmed with a feeling of relief. Since then, my mother-in-law stopped criticizing my work and making a call just to tell me some sarcasm. All contact had to go through John, and no more complaints about when I could and couldn't visit. I even thought she started to respect my work. My father-in-law had never done chores at home, and he was told by John,
"You need to start helping mom with housework."
He was struggling with cooking, but he helped with cleaning and started to show more appreciation toward his wife. The atmosphere of the house became a little more joyful since then.
Did you worry that I was gonna take my mom's side?
When John asked me, I honestly told him that I didn't want to create a cause to break their relationship.
I'm glad we could turn the bad experience into a better family. Thank you, Han.
He gave me a kiss on my forehead. 3 months after the family trip, the 4 of us were staying at the same hotel. Glad to see that it's still popular, I happily commented to the GM.
It's because of you,
he said with a shy smile. My mother-in-law told him, I'm very sorry for the incident. I've been scolded by my family and I deeply regret it now. I apologize for making you worried. John has been a very good husband. He looked at us family wholeheartedly and said,
Tracy saved this hotel and me, so please take care of her.
He really sounded like my own dad. I realized then that I was valued by many people, and I felt grateful for that. The trip turned out to be better than I had imagined. I had been there numerous times for work, so I was like a local guide. I took my family to secret spots, and we were all excited like kids. It was the perks of this job and my efforts. My in-laws and I would keep a reasonable distance and a good relationship in the future.